Welcome everybody back to Veil of Sound. And this here is one of those moments where I say, like, that is one of the key things that I love about Veil of Sound, being able to talk to musicians, not only once, but maybe 2, 3 times, or in the case of my friend Eugene, 5 times. So I'm very happy to have Toby Driver here on the show again. Toby, thanks for joining.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure. And it's also a good moment to have you on the show because a few weeks ago you released your new solo work, Raven. I know that you can give me anything.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, First of all, let's talk about that record itself before we then talk about the connections to the other stuff that you've released over the last couple of years. Um, You have said on your socials at one point that writing solo material is always difficult for you, or at least
Mm.
not as easy as, for example, Dot or Maudlin or Allora Crucible, or probably also the stuff with Blood Mist and others.
Mm.
Can you explain why it is so difficult for you?
Yeah. To be clear, the music is not difficult. The music
Hmm.
is as easy as can be. The lyrical part is difficult, and I have back in the Modeling of the Well days, um, lyrical duties were split between me and Jason Byron,
Hmm.
and I mean he's just such a gifted writer.
Sorry, there is a little glitch. You were speaking about Jason and how he is a gifted writer. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So what I was saying was he has been a gifted writer since we were teenagers, and these days if I go back and I look at the Model of the Well lyrics, the ones that he wrote, I always like them a lot more than the ones that I wrote, and I always just kind of like been a little bit in his shadow as as a lyricist, and so when we kind of transformed into Dot. I wrote some lyrics for some songs, but he was primarily writing the lyrics, and his are always just like so great. And I in KO dot I was happy with mine, but they definitely don't say the same type of thing that his
Mhm.
says, that his say. Um, anyhow, fast forward to making the solo records, the ballads records,
Mhm.
which are basically an exercise in me writing more simple music.
Mhm.
Um, I In order for it to be like really a solo record, I need to be the lyricist
Yeah,
so that
of
it's like
course.
it's like a solo record.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and it's just I don't feel like I express myself naturally in words.
Mhm.
Sound is more my thing, and so just coming up with what to say and how to say it takes me a really, really long time.
Mhm.
And finally, when I am able to get something out, I'm happy with what I did. It just takes me a really long time to do it, and I actually dread the process. I do all the music. I have a lot of fun doing it, and then the last thing that needs to be done is lyrics. I'm like, I really don't want to do it. I procrastinate as much as possible, and yeah, so it's just, I don't know, it's like a little bit of a barrier I have. And if you saw the thing that I put on my social media about Raven when I released it,
Mhm.
I had a realization recently that the subject matter is actually quite difficult subject matter,
Mhm.
and so I
That's
was,
also what I wanted to ask later, but if you already hit it, then please.
yeah, well, I had this realization that maybe one reason why lyrics are hard for me is because I feel compelled to write about pretty heavy stuff, and maybe I just don't really want to go there. It's not
Mhm.
it's not it's not so simple to just casually go there. I
Yeah.
have to like be in a particular state.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And then let me guess. I would figure that you not consciously and decidedly can get into that state.
Um, I think what I have to do is um I have to have an opportunity to, yeah, to force myself to go into that place. And
Mhm.
then when I'm in I stay in there for a while.
Hmm.
And so, I guess it might be disruptive to my life. Like some people, maybe they can go into their office and they can work on lyrics for an hour
Hmm.
and then write something like very heavy and then say, okay, I'm taking a break and then go back and have lunch and go do their normal activities. But I don't think that it works for me that way. If I'm going to go into that place, I think I'm going to be in that place for a few days.
I can see what you mean. So it's not just the problem of coming up with the lyrics yourself, not producing lyrics, but also, forcing yourself to do so.
That might be it.
Yeah. And you said painful subject matter. Is that something that for you connects the three records, Madonnaw and They Are the Shield and Raven? Do those things connect them?
Can you repeat that question? I had a little glitch.
No problem. So is this difficult subject matter? Is that also something that for you connects the three records?
Yeah, if you look at the lyrical themes for all of them, they're all about pretty intensely personal stuff. Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I guess that's probably what that project is about because um, just kind of from a technical standpoint, um, the project is, as I said, about writing more simple music. It's basically just like each song has like one or two parts,
Yeah.
and they repeat, and it's basically like traditional singer-songwriter music. And so since it's not composer music, if you look at like the great singer-songwriters, the ones that I'm like a really big fan of anyway, like Leonard Cohen and everything, music is quite simple, and the lyrics take the lead. So it
Hmm.
really has to be about the lyrics being the kind of powerful focus.
Yeah, because of course the lyrics are the thing that makes those records shine.
Hmm.
I can totally see where you're going. When you say that, is it also difficult to get to that point of a reduction music wise? To okay, let's not overdo this. Let's not do like 12 layers of stuff, 12 guitars and stuff like that. So is it difficult to also clearly focus on the reduction of the music?
At first, it was the first record was a challenge, and I had to. It was just a practice in restraint,
Hmm.
and and then after I did that record, Madonnaw, and then I did a tour, and I realized how much I enjoyed doing that.
Hmm.
Um, the next one, They Are the Shield,
Yeah.
was not as difficult, but also I went a little bit farther into progressive territory with that one. So that one's like a little
Yeah.
bit more composery. There's like violin parts and stuff, and
Hmm.
uh, and a lot more odd times and stuff on that record. And then again over the years since I played that music, and I realized how much I enjoy it, and how different of experience it is to playing very difficult, complex music. Um, I think this last one, it came out pretty easily, and I
Okay.
knew exactly what I needed to do in terms of the music.
So would you say that, of course, a lot of it also has to do with experience?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, and it made me realize that I should probably just you know I should write more simple songs because they're enjoyable and they come out pretty easily, except for the
Mm.
lyrics, of course, but the music part comes out pretty easily, and I'm always really happy with it. So it's a joy, and then in music, for me, like it's my life. So anytime there's something that brings me joy in it, I should spend some more time with it. Hmm.
Is then the music maybe also a good way for you to, yeah, to do like an exercise, to get away from the big opulent, from the big thing that, for example, is KO dot, where again you have a lot of difficult compositions.
Yeah, and then at the same time, it allows me to have some perspective about KO dot and see
Hmm.
KO dot as an exercise as well.
Okay, so it would you say that in a way, then this set of records makes all your writing processes that tiny bit easier?
Yeah, definitely. And also, back in the earlier days of K-Dot and even before Modern of the Well, you know
Mm-hmm.
that um, my grandiose projects, like they'll like lots of stylistic changes, and
Mm-hmm.
on some of those records there'll be like a heavy song, and then there'll be like a ballady song and everything like that. And now, since I'm doing it this way, I don't really have to kind of blend them in the same project.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in both cases there could be like a more unified project. Like the ballads can be their own record, and then the kind of like grandiose music can be its own record, and we
Mm-hmm.
don't really need to blend them.
Would you say that that also makes all your music a little bit more concise because you're not drifting into different territories?
Um, no, I wouldn't say concise. No.
Okay. Well, it's totally fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
Um, Let me guess. When you started writing Madonnaw, you had not already thought about doing a third record, right?
Not at all. No.
So, is there for you a common thread going through all of them, or is it a trilogy because it's four records of similar music?
Um, Trilogy in terms of a story, but it's a trilogy like they go together because they're unified in terms of the practice and in terms of the themes.
Mm.
Yeah, and maybe we can't really call them a trilogy yet, because I wouldn't say that Raven is the ending either, because there might be another one and then it becomes a quadrilogy, but who knows?
Very interesting. I mean, like there is always a little bit of time between each of those three records.
Hmm.
Does there come a moment when you yourself say, "Oh, maybe now it's time for another ballads record," or are you writing some of these songs all along, and then at some point you notice, okay, I might have four or five. Let's see where we can go with this.
No, it's the former, exactly what you said, and that happened to me this year
Okay.
with Raven. I felt it was time to do one. It had been a
Mm-hmm.
while, and I also I really enjoy doing solo tours.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted a new vehicle to be able to do some new tours.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll come to your tour plans in a moment.
Mhm.
Um, we have to talk a little bit about the second album, about They Are the Shield, because I'm not sure if everybody out there knows the major story behind it, what has been going on this year with all the reworking of a record. Can you maybe explain that to our audience a little bit?
Yeah, let's see. To just be magnanimous, um, I would say that when I made that record, I was happy with it, and it ended up after the fact
Hmm.
that there were two like kind of like negative elements to the record
Hmm.
that later ended up kind of like ruining the record for me in some ways. And one of them was the label that released it um, did some stuff that made me really angry,
Yeah.
and um, and kind of like I think contributed a lot to the kind of like commercial death of that record.
Hmm.
Um, and maybe I could just leave it at that. So that's one thing
Yeah.
that happened. And
Yeah.
then the other thing was that on one of the tracks, my ex-girlfriend was the singer on one of the songs,
Yeah.
and um, and it ended up being like a really really like dangerous, destructive relationship. And I just after that I really needed to get her voice off of the record, and redo it the way that I had originally written it. So
Hmm.
that's like the nice way to say those things,
Yeah.
And
And
so,
then to come to
mhm,
the good part of it,
mhm.
you online started something like a GoFundMe, a Kickstarter to get the money to redo it, right?
Yeah, that's right. And so, so just to be clear, we did not re-record the album.
Yeah.
It's the same recordings. All I did was I recorded a new vocal for that one song I mentioned,
Mhm.
and that's the way the song originally was anyway, because there's a live recording from the premiere of that music where
Mhm.
I'm the singer on it. So, and then I just went back to the same studio that we had originally done it in,
Mhm.
and we just did a new mix. And the reason we remixed every song is because technically speaking, if you can't just remix one song because then it doesn't sound like it matches the rest of the
Yeah.
record.
Yeah.
So we just had to do all of them so that it sounded like it matched.
Was then also the choice. Okay, let's put it otherwise. So you decided to go to the same studio, which of course makes sense.
Hmm.
But um, why then go the next step? Why not say, okay, we're in the same studio, we might even have the same audio equipment. Why then go that little step further? Is it just for the sound of it, or is there also maybe that tiny bit of let's chase those demons away?
Go which step further? Which one do you mean?
Well, you said like you re-recorded on and not re-recorded, redid the whole record, and not just one song.
We remixed it.
Why? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you remix the whole record and not just one song? Was it this, okay, let's make this a coherent effort, or is there also a little bit of let's chase out the demons?
No. It was really only for the technical reason
Mm.
to make the songs match. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, because I didn't feel that there were like kind of like spiritual demons in the other songs. I think the music is powerful enough to
Mm. Yeah,
resilient to that. Yeah. I
yeah.
thought I thought really like the other songs, they were kind of perfect the way they were.
Mhm.
So I would have been happy to not remix them, but we just needed to make them match.
Mm. And of
Mhm.
course, that makes for a very, very coherent sound, of course.
Yeah, and we used a little bit of new gear as well. We did an analog mix instead of a digital mix on the new one, so
Okay.
it has a little bit of a better sound. Hmm.
Yeah, it's also interesting, when you look at certain not social media, certain streaming services, you can even hear both versions. Is there some idea in your head where you say like, okay, there are both versions, let's keep them available, or would you like to take down the old version at some point?
They should be taken down, and I'm in a little bit of a fight with the distributor about it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So good luck for that.
yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
but
It's actually I should mention the part about taking it down
mm,
is the response. Like the problem with the fight, like if anybody cares, is that the distributor is saying that the old label has to do it, and the label
mm,
is saying that the distributor has to do it, and so it's like
ah,
still the label is like still like a thorn in my side about this thing, which is really annoying. But
yeah, I can
anyway,
imagine.
they're not touching the new one, so
Yeah, because of course that's yours, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Um, Now the new record. Would you agree that no, not only the new record, but also the other two records? Would you agree that their reduction also goes into the sense of elegance, that it's really an elegant record or
Yeah.
elegant records?
Yeah. I had this realization a few years ago. I think it was, I don't know, it was like around the time of They Are the Shield that I was coming from this scene where I was making kind of like progressive was and am, so making like progressive metal, progressive rock. The technical aspect is pretty important. Being able to be a high level player is important. And then in the scene that I was rolling in New York, like it was this kind of like avant-garde, like technical metal scene, and everybody's like really amazing musician. And that's kind of like a really big aspect of that music is to kind of like show how great you are. Um, and anyway, I as I grew older, I was seeing these bands of older older musicians than me, like decades older than me,
Mhm.
and seeing how their music was pretty simple. Like let's say like Sting, for example, you know, pretty simple music. Um, and you know, you can be a fan or not or whatever, you know, like who cares about the writing? Maybe it's good, maybe it's not. But a band like that, it's like to get that sound, to sound like you are that mature and to
Mhm.
sound like you have that much mastery to be able to play pretty simple and pretty dumb music, but make it sound like so amazing and so perfect. There, that's like a skill that's on a whole higher level than being able to play your instrument really fast. And and so it's like this, it's this basically it's grace and it's elegance, as you said, and it's like there's like a lot of technicality to that. It's like a high level of playing to be able to have this kind of like um perfect graceful playing that has nothing to do with like how many notes you're playing or how fast or anything like that. And that became really interesting to me. And so a lot of what's happening in my ballads endeavor is trying to kind of go that direction and explore that kind of thing.
I have a question. You've been speaking about reduction,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
you've mentioned Sting.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same way about stuff that he did with the Police?
No way. No, not at all. No.
Because that, as easy as it sounds sometimes, but that was, as far as I know, not easy to make.
Yeah,
Um,
no. I think that's kind of like that's young people music for sure.
mhm.
But I think, you know, I would recommend like for anybody that's like, you know, raising their eyebrows at what I'm saying. Sting released in the last, I don't know, 10 years or so, a few records that are really good examples of what I'm talking
Mhm.
about.
Mhm.
The best example is his kind of like Christmas album called on a winter's night or something. But
Mhm.
you should really watch also, like there's like a YouTube live performance of that one. It's like really incredible. And then he did one with a classical guitarist where
Mhm. Yeah.
the classical guitarist is like just playing, you know, classical guitar pieces, and Sting is just kind of like really dry vocals, kind of showing how great of a singer he is. No reverb
Mhm.
or anything like that. Those are really compelling, you know. And I think it's cool to see, you know, just like this old guy like kind of saying, okay, like what is a way to what's a new way to be a great musician? You know,
Yeah.
a way that he hadn't done in the past. And it's cool. Like musicians should not retire. You know, musicians should like continue to grow. And like, you see that
Yeah.
like all the greatest composers are like these really old guys, and you're just going to get better and better and better. And so later on in your life, you have to be like, what's a new thing I can do? And what's a new way to kind of to become better? You know, to make myself
Yeah.
become better. Hmm.
Yeah. And exactly. And sometimes the most interesting way is stepping away from a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
Make it simple, make it easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, as much as I do not like Howard Stern, and as much as, some of the Foo Fighters stuff are deployable, some of them. I remember once hearing Stern on the radio, and Dave was there, and he was playing a few of the tracks from, I think it was the first and the second album live. And Stern said one sentence that I found really interesting, because it was just the guitar and Dave's voice. And Stern said, well, yeah, see, that's how these songs hold up. At the core, they're interesting and they don't need all the layers. And that is
Mm-hmm.
something that I can see. Yes, at the core, good music at the core does not need 88 layers or 120 tracks, something like that. Yes. Um, What is also interesting that sometimes on your records, and I think this was on, let me have a look. I think it was on They Are the Shield, or is it on the new one? There's a song called Shankar.
Yeah.
And there you use your voice in a, for lack of a better word, in a kind of oriental adjacent music style way. Is that important for you to give it a cohesive picture that everything in a way flows together, even when you have a topic that might be a little shanka? I mean, like, that's definitely not an English word, right? So
right.
Get it all together?
I'm not so sure that I would agree with your assessment of the
lyrics.
Oriental thing. I know with the Oriental kind of music, I know what you're talking about, because there's that
the
one
phrasing.
Yeah, there's that one part that kind of like goes through like a flat second and everything. I know what you're talking about. But that's not the intention there. And I just I think maybe it's like a little bit more coincidental that it lines up with the I think it's a Sanskrit word, but like it's not. I mean, it's nothing like Indian music. So if you it's not trying to do that thing there. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And then I think there's one other thing that we should talk about when we look at the new, no, not at the new record only, but on all the records. The records already from the beginning make it very clear that this is Toby Driver, because I think, if I remember correctly, that is, of those three, are the only records of yours where your face is on the cover.
Yeah. Oh, actually, the first Allora Crucible record is as well.
Oh, yeah.
But I can tell you about that cover, though. Sorry to be on a tangent, but that cover is my face, but it's this kind of like psychedelically like warped version. Yeah. It's a little hard to see in the digital, like the tiny square that you see on on the internet. But if you look at the big version of that, there's like all these kind of like fractals in it and everything like that. And so that's supposed to be like it's a transition from me, this kind of like solo balladeer artist, into this kind of more like new age. So it's like this kind of like transitionary face. But anyway, yeah. Back to your question. I'm sorry.
No, I can already put my next question to that. When you say like, okay, a transition, would you say that Allora Crucible is, from all of your projects, the most Toby Driver solo stuff, most closest one?
Closest to being a solo record?
Yeah, close. That the Allora Crucible records are the ones closest to your solos?
Oh yeah, they're similar. Yeah, they're similar because they I think I was going to just go that direction and just start doing that. And that was going to be like my new solo thing. But then this Raven record happened. And also
it just happened.
Yeah, and then also like the Allora Crucible kind of changed into more of like I mean, I started playing the hammered dulcimer and everything like that. And also Timba's violin playing is really crucial element to Allora Crucible. I mean, he's on both records, and he actually wrote his own parts for almost all of it. So it is actually more of like a collaborative thing than it is a solo record at this point.
Yeah. I'm like the interpersonal connections on both records are clear. Let's talk about Allora Crucible a little bit, because I think that might be, probably together with Blood Mist, the project of yours that is least well known. Can you explain? I mean, like, a lot of people will say like, okay, why does he need another outlet? Can you explain why there is this project, and in which way it's part of the mosaic of your body of work?
Well, I mean, the simple answer is I specifically wanted project. And I have learned over the years since I've been talking about this that um, in Germany, like people have a very, very negative view of the term new age.
Yes.
And yeah, and it's not that for me, and it's not really that um for anybody like at least in the US that knows about that kind of music. There's a lot of
Yeah.
really deep important new age and it's like adjacent to both electronic music and also like jazz fusion and musician. You know, there is a lot of like really bad stuff that I think that you think of when you think of like spa music or like fake Native American stuff. You know,
Yeah.
uh, but that's not really what it is for me and for people that really know a lot about the genre. And
Yeah. And also people that are doing it not for the sake of money. I think
yeah.
that's also important to say.
Oh yeah, there's that all of that kind of stuff too. Yeah, of course. But you know, it was the pandemic, and so I've always been a listener of new age music, and I've always kind of like touched upon the influences in my work, but I never actually explicitly made one. So the Allora Crucible was like a pandemic project to explicitly do that, and then it turned out being like a really musically successful thing, and I was really happy with it, and it ended up being on a really cool label, and so yeah, it's a really like great way to just get that to express that side of myself.
Mm.
And it also goes along with what I said a little bit earlier with you know, instead of putting all of my ideas into one band, maybe compartmentalize a little bit and say, okay, here's the new age record, here's the ballads record, and then wait till you see the next that record. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I hope we will also talk about in 2025. But I know what you're saying. And let me put another question to it. Isn't it also the way that if you do a band like Allora Crucible, that this is much more respectful of the genre than instead just taking one little tiny new age idea and put it somewhere in one KO dot song?
Yeah, it really is. You're totally right.
Is that something where, or is there a little bit where you say, like, I'm not just making music for myself, but I'm also making music for this particular musical genres or musical niche's sake? You know, I'm not just trying to take one little bit, but I want to pay completely homage to the
Yeah,
genre.
I absolutely did want to completely pay homage to that genre. Yeah. Um, and then the other side of it is a career side as well. Um, and you know, like my bands like KO Dot, it's always had a hard time like finding an exact audience
Yeah.
because it's so mixed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what. So you
And
mean,
so,
yeah, go on.
yeah, well, and so you know, like also as I get older, and you know, KO Dot, it has existed for a long time, and so anybody that has had a band for that long, for like 20 years plus, um, you know, they see inside of the industry that the industry starts to treat you like really differently. You know, they consider you to be a legacy artist. And so there
Mm-hmm.
are like many opportunities that are no longer available to you because even though you've been working really hard the whole time trying to climb and like achieve something, suddenly you get to a certain point where everyone's like, oh, you've been at it for such a long time, you're now a legacy artist, you're not really relevant to the
Yeah.
new programming that we want to do. And so it actually, like, you know, some things get easier when you're an older act because you can do the type of thing that we're doing now, where you're like, okay, now we're going to do fewer shows, and each show is going to be a special occasion, and maybe we'll get bigger audiences, and kind of like how Swans did. Um, and you can kind of like go that direction, but you can't really do like simple tours anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And um, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a
No,
second,
no, no,
but
no. I know. And let me guess,
yeah.
the way that this also contributes to, for example, KO dot, it's I don't want to say simplifies KO dot a little bit, but it might make it more. Might make it more appealing for people of a certain genre affiliation.
And also like, um, I remember the thing that I was gonna say, is that since like being an older artist and like all these problems come up, these kind of like career problems and industry problems, and you realize you're like, oh well, if I have a project that's just ballads, I can play a totally different type of show. I don't have to play metal shows anymore. I can play different to a different audience. And the same thing if you have like a new age project, you're like, I don't even have to play in this scene anymore. Like all my contacts that I've built over like decades, all these people that listen to rock music and dark music and everything like that. If I want to do an Allura Crucible show, I don't really like need to go through those contacts. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I could
Yeah.
like have an entirely new set of contacts that only listen to that kind of music. And then when I do a show, it doesn't have to be promoted as somehow like metal adjacent.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's really really hard to get away from. I mean like I don't know if you listen to the last Allura Crucible record, but still, it's like it got reviewed in the Wire. It was a really good review. I really appreciate it, but it was considered to be avant rock. I don't see how, but like
Nah.
it's
Doesn't
like
work.
it's like you can't get away from it. It's like no matter what you do, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
so like maybe like what you got to do, you just got to like evade, and they got to find like a whole new like set of people that like don't know anything about like the music that we listen to.
Yeah. And of course, if you find people that listen to both things,
Hmm.
then we'll also probably appreciate you doing an Allura Crucible show instead of a KO dot show with Allura Crucible elements. Yes, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
trying to experiment with exploring that. Um, there is a little bit of like scene crossover because Allura Crucible is on House of Mythology,
yeah.
and so there's some scene crossover. But I still have not yet done a proper Allura Crucible tour. We did a couple like mini tours, um, but I'm trying to like kind of set up a proper tour now, and we'll see how that goes.
But let me guess, even if you go on tour with Allura, you probably will not perform your solo material.
No, we are. Yeah, the next one that I'm planning, we're gonna try to do two sets and
Mhm.
have there be like a set of the solo, like the ballad stuff, and then a set of the Allura Crucible stuff. So there will be like scene crossover in that way.
Awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Which of course it makes sense because there are people that are in both projects, so to speak, of
Yeah.
course.
Same band. Yeah. Hmm.
But you will probably not combine Allura Crucible with, for example, K-Dot.
No, no way. No, no.
although I would like to see some of the metal fans sitting there and listening to Allura, that would be interesting.
They might like it. I mean, yeah, especially if it was like with like kind of like cynic scene, like
Yeah.
because like you know how like they're going these days. So I think that would kind of match that. But I mean, it's also like a little bit of a logistical problem. Like that instrument, the hammer dulcimer is huge. It's hard to bring around. It's expensive. So it's like I don't know if I really want to like deal with the logistics of KO dot gear, that many people, and then also worrying about that instrument. It's just yeah.
I just remembered that you are not the only or not the first former Flenser musician who loves the hammered dulcimer. I just
Oh
remembered
yeah.
Botanist,
Hmm.
whose music
Yeah.
is not completely hammered dulcimer, but yeah.
But it's
It's a
primary.
trendy instrument at the moment.
Yeah, the two of us, yeah, yeah, and when KO did a tour with Botanist in 2015 in Europe, and I of course wasn't playing the instrument at the time, and actually wasn't really even super interested in it. I thought what they were doing was cool, but I didn't even like really like closely inspect their instruments or anything. But I am a big fan of Botanist now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my playing of it doesn't have anything to do with them. It's just a totally different thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to know a little bit more about a botanist adjacent project, Thief, you have to wait a few more weeks and you might find something on this channel. Toby, first of all, thanks for all the insights into the new record and into also the connections between all of the different projects, but not all, many of the different projects that you are doing. But you know the way it is here at the Veil of Sound, you have to go through the infamous quickfire round also today.
All right.
And as you, during the interview, mentioned, older songwriters, I completely threw away my notes and came quickly up with a few more.
Okay.
And I'll sometimes give you 2 songs by the same person, sometimes 2 albums by the same artist. Let's start with Nick Cave.
All right.
From Here to Eternity or Push the Sky Away?
Let's see. What songs are on Push the Sky Away?
Now you're pinning me. The title track, of course. You figure out it.
I think I gotta say From Her to Eternity, because I just love that one, and I'm sure I've listened to Push the Sky Away, but I don't think I could tell you which songs are on that one.
Do you think that's also the more obvious choice because it's an album that had more time to grow on us? Because I would also choose that one.
Yeah, and also like the the songs are like the kind of like legendary Nick Cave songs, and he still plays them like pretty frequently. Yeah.
Although I have to say that I've seen him a few weeks ago, and he also plays Push the Sky Away songs. Fortunately. When talking to a New Yorker and who likes songwriters, I cannot but talk about Simon and Garfunkel.
Okay.
Bookends or Bridge Over Troubled Water? And I'm talking about the album Bridge Over Troubled Water, not just the one track.
I think you would have to tell me the songs that are on those, because I don't really know. I don't really know Simon and Garfunkel's albums, really. I know their songs.
It's interesting, right? The same with me. I looked it up while we were talking, and I seen that, of course, Bridge is the famous record, and I'll give you a few songs from both. So on Bridge, you have Bridge Over Troubled Water, you have Cecilia, you have A Boxer, and also, for example, El Condor Pasa. Whereas on Bookends, sorry, you have America, and you also have Mrs. Robinson, Hazy Shade of Winter, something like that.
Oh, I'm going to go with that one then. Yeah. Yeah.
It just struck me that, The Graduate is closing in on 60 years now. My goodness. Elvis Costello.
Oh, no. None of it. Nothing.
Oh. Can you explain why?
Elvis Costello. Man, that's like, well, okay.
That is AOR. I know.
I think okay, wait. Is his song Brown Eyed Girl? Is that his song?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, wait.
That's Van Morrison.
Okay, that's the guy that I really hate. Okay, so Elvis Costello. I guess I have to say I don't really know any of it.
Yeah, I was
I'm really
about to
failing
say
at this round. I'm so sorry.
It's totally fine, but I've never anybody in all of these interviews has said that so quickly.
No, because I was thinking of Van Morrison. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But they're so similar, aren't they? It's like the same music.
Same music, and also very similar voice. I'll give you 2 tracks by him, nevertheless, from the same record. Okay. Watching the Detectives, which you might have heard, and Allison.
Oh man,
I see it.
No idea.
Let's go to One of the greats in this genre, Nick Drake.
Okay. I only know the
Pink.
one I only know the one record.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
only.
yeah, yeah. Pink
Okay.
Moon. I'm very sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I know. But
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, um, Nick Drake, is that for you a singles artist or
Oh,
someone where you say like, oh, it's an album artist?
it's the album. Every time anybody puts Nick Drake on, it's always the whole record.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, like my whole life, people are like, let's put this Nick Drake record on. You always put the whole thing on.
And you think like,
Yeah.
next one. And it's also interesting. I just looked it up. He doesn't even have that many albums because, of course, the guy died too early. Another person who died too early is Jeff Buckley,
Mm-hmm.
just like his father. I'm going to give
Yeah.
you two tracks by Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Lover You Should Have Come Over versus Dream Brother.
Huh. I don't think I know Dream Brother. I know Lover, You Should Come Over very well. What so Dream Brothers, what is that one on the second like Sketches for My Sweetheart record? I don't think I know.
You always pin me on stuff. I'll
I
look
know
it
that
up
one,
for you.
but anyway, I'm gonna pick Lover, You Should Come Over because
It is on Grace. Both
it
are on
is?
Grace.
Wait,
Yeah.
what does Dream Brothers sound like? Sing it for me real quick.
Forget it. No way. I've done
Wait.
that once in an interview, and people were like, "Never do this again, please." Don't.
Well,
No, 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 no.
I really like that record a lot though, so maybe I just don't know the song by name,
It's
but
the last, but it's the 10th track on the record.
oh no, I'm gonna pick that song. I love that song. Yeah, that song is
Okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'm picking that one. Yeah.
Mhm. And I have a few more, and the next two are big. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you know, probably for both artists, you know both records. Tom Waits,
Mm-hmm.
Rain Dogs versus Closing Time.
Rain Dogs.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Would that be your favorite Waits album?
Yeah, I would say so. Just because that's kind of like when I got into him,
Mhm.
and everything. I guess like everything after that is kind of trying to live up to that one. I mean, I'm sure like, you know, like lots of his stuff is like totally great, but I'm always kind of like looking for that same vibe with Tom Waits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one,
Mm-hmm.
which for me is the epitome of really well-made songwriter stuff. Both albums.
Mm.
Songs from a Room versus Songs of Love and Hate by Leonard Cohen.
Songs of Love and Hate. Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, you know, when we talk about trilogies, I cannot let you go without talking about trilogy movies.
All right, sure. Mm-hmm.
The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings?
Oh, come on. Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
would anybody say The Hobbit?
I've heard people say that, and I still don't understand why, because how do you turn a 250-page novella
Mm-hmm.
into, what is it, a 10-hour trilogy? Come on. No.
I did not like that, but I love the Lord of the Rings extended editions. I don't like what they did with Arwen, but fine.
Did you know that in some scenes for the Helm's Deep part, you see Arwen in the background? They wrote her into that scene and then noticed it doesn't work and forgot to cut her out of all the scenes. There are a few frames where you see her.
Wow.
Nerd talk. And I mean, like, if we talk about trilogies which might have a sequel trilogy, we do not get around Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you, and I'm going to say it in chronological order of the narration, not of the publication.
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars 4 to 6, the original trilogy, versus Star Wars 7 to 9, because the first three just.
I mean, come on, 4 to 6. Come on, who would say anything else than that?
It's interesting, right? I mean, like, I've seen the last. I can say I have seen all last 7 in chronological publication order in the cinema, from number 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. And still, I don't know. I think that for 1 to 3, it's just too perfect pictures. And for 7 to 9, I feel like, oh, we didn't have a story, so we just used the old one.
Yeah. I can't really get away from the just like hammering an idea to death thing. Yep. It's like, you know, those 3 that came out in the 70s and 80s, like they're so great. And it's like, why do you have to make more? It's like Abigail 2. Like, why is there an Abigail 2? You know?
Yeah. And there is something that I totally respect about Michael J. Fox. He never did Back to the Future 4.
Is there a Back to the Future 4?
No, he never did that. You know, like he said, like, this is done. Number 3 is finished. Story told.
But did there need to even be a 2 and a 3? You know what I mean? Like,
let's put it this way. If you did number 2 the way you did it, then there needed to be a number 3, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I still think that 2 is a weak one. That's true. But 3, at least to me, holds up to the first one pretty well, because they gave us a new scenery. They gave us a more elaborate story. I like that. 2.
All right. I'm gonna go back and watch that one again. Yeah.
And I mean, like, I bet that they offered him shitloads of money to do number 4, and they never did that, which is something that we cannot say for. Yeah, but you know, right? I mean, like, think about again, Indiana Jones. The first 3 are really great movies, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
But when they did number 4, oh, come on, Aliens.
Yeah.
Really?
I didn't like that one.
No, the last one was again.
I did like the last one.
Yeah. And I
like. You know that my working title though for Raven, I know that you can give me anything, was Madonnaw 2. But it was just a working title. It was just like while I was recording out. But of course, I would not actually really ever do that.
Yeah. I'm just thinking if there is any good record that I remember which has a 2 in the title, like Use Your Illusion 2. No, no.
Yeah, no, yeah, that one's good. But they came out at the same time. It's not really a sequel. You know?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Isn't there like an Operation Mindcrime sequel?
Oh yeah, I think there is. Yeah. I think there is. But I haven't listened to it yet consciously. Yeah, and with Use Your Illusion, I mean, like, I think if they had cut down Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 into one record, that would have been a instant classic. So there is a little bit too much on there. Anyway, there is not too much music on Raven, You Can Give Me Anything, because it's a really elegant, nice record, which is also not too long. I also like that. It's a very cohesive and coherent picture. So thanks for that, Toby. Thanks for the detailed answers. But as we will publish this during Christmas time, our final thing this time around is your favorite Christmas song.
Oh, the Carol of the Bells.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, my friend, and pleasure talking to you. And I'm already looking forward to next year.
Thank you very much. And yeah, let's talk next year.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.